The Bad Guys has been out for a good month and a half now, which means that the Blu-ray is already out.
Wow, that felt quick.
Like, whenever a movie comes out on digital, it always feels like it's been only a day since released in theaters, when in reality, it's been like 4 weeks. Well, except Spider-Man. We had to endure the low-quality fan-recorded clips for so long.
I want to fight an alien.
Anyway, back to The Bad Guys. With the release of it on Blu-ray, we got tons of extra content, such as an extra short that takes place after the movie, and a bunch of deleted scenes, which is actually what I wanted to talk about. There's a full 5-minute animatic that has a completely different version of the movie's opening with different character designs, different voice actors, and it's actually a bit darker than the original. And by darker, I really just mean that cops use guns instead of batons. But still, it's cool to see the process of what DreamWorks decided to keep out and delete, and also what they decided to keep. I was reading the comments on this deleted opening, and it seems that the majority of people are glad that they went with the opening in the final movie over this one. I mean, the designs were more threatening, and the writing had a bit more of a grounded tone to it compared to the more cartoony nature of the final product. Although, you know what? I'm gonna come out and say it. I actually prefer this deleted opening over what we got in the final movie. Not to say what we got in the final movie was bad or anything like that, not at all. I'm just surprised with just how great this original version was. What it seems people's biggest problem with this opening is how Mr. Wolf looks a lot more threatening than in his final design. But honestly, are you kidding? This shot where he reveals his face while threatening the bank employee is fucking sick.
Good morning, sir. What may I do for you today?
You know how in the movies they ask you not to panic when the bank is being robbed?
Beg your pardon?
Well, don't panic, okay?
A heavier emphasis is put on hiding his face at the beginning, so for the very first clear shot of his face to be him at his most threatening, it works so well as a reveal. Overall, his design is a lot more disproportionate and monster-like. He's a lot more lanky with broader shoulders, a larger snout and fangs, and messier fur. It actually reminds me a bit more of his original look back in the comics, and I kinda like that. Not that the final design is bad. In fact, I think it's better than the old design in a lot of aspects for the story that the final movie was trying to tell. I'm just saying that I prefer this design more. On top of that, Mr. Wolf plays a lot more into the narrator aspect in this draft compared to the final movie. In there, we got like 2 scenes, but here there's so much more emphasis put on it. Normally, I think this kind of narration is really obnoxious and annoying. I'm looking at you opening to Sonic Movie 1, but this draft executes it right. First off, adding a point of view to the reaction honestly works. In the final movie, Mr. Wolf tells you to get over here, but the camera kind of just stays static the whole time. So he takes that as the point of view being afraid to come near him. Although, since this is like the first time he's narrating and we're already like 7 minutes into the movie, it doesn't work as well. In this draft, it's established almost right from the get-go that 1, Mr. Wolf narrates to the audience, and 2, that audience point of view actually reacts back.
I said closer! Oh, I know what it is. You're afraid because I'm a big scary wolf, huh?
It's more clear what's happening here, and that there is some type of exaggerated perception showing that even the audience viewing the story is playing into the hammy threateningness of Mr. Wolf. I love it. Another aspect of the narration here that I enjoy is this moment right here.
Who are you talking to?
Them.
It's so subtle, but that's what makes it so funny. The humor in this moment doesn't come from the fact that, oh, a character is aware of the fourth wall. It actually comes from the implied character relationship building. With just a simple sigh, it implies that Mr. Snake constantly sees Mr. Wolf doing this strange dramatic narration thing and thinks that his friend is either delusional or just hopelessly overdramatic. Again, it's so subtle and so much is implied from it. This joke just hits so hard. Comedy is subjective, and my humor tends to be very subtle, but that's just what I prefer, and I'm aware it's not for everyone, as you'll see later on. Now, from the small clips that I've shown you, you must have noticed that, yeah, Wolf and Snake's voices are different. In fact, I wanted Draylon and Reese to dub over these scenes, but since the voice actors themselves are a topic here in this video, sadly I can't. But if there's any Bad Guys videos I make in the future, you guys are definitely coming back. Anyway, Sam Rockwell is a phenomenal actor. He's been in so many great movies and has proved time and time again just how skilled he is at his craft. And yeah, he's great as Mr. Wolf in the final movie, but there's something about the guy who voices Mr. Wolf in this draft that I just prefer for some reason. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's how well he contrasts highly exaggerated speaking back to back with subtle casual talking. Or maybe it's how he sounds so much like a stage actor that's inside of a voiced over movie. I really don't know. Something about it just clicks with me. There's only one problem though. I can't for the life of me figure out who is this voicing him. I mean, I assumed that maybe it was one of the storyboard artists themselves doing it because it seemed that they were also voicing Mr. Snake just as a placeholder, but there's something off about that too. This guy is really expressive and seems to be professionally trained in acting. Like, does this sound like a guy who was trying to do a placeholder voice to just hold the storyboard together?
Honestly, I don't even like grandmas. They're a bit gamey. Point is, when you're the villain of every story, you grow up thinking it's your only career option.
I looked through the IMDb pages of all the people who were involved with the storyboarding of this movie, and none of them have any acting credits. The acting in this is way too good for them to just have grabbed someone with no experience, but I just can't find out who it is. I guess this starts a new mystery then. Who voiced Mr. Wolf and Mr. Snake in the original draft of The Bad Guys? If you have any idea, leave a comment or reach out to me on my Twitter. I genuinely want to figure this out and I need your guys' help. Maybe this could be found somewhere in the Blu-ray where this animatic originally came from, which I don't own. But hey, I will be trying to do further research into this because I'm curious. Anyway, now that I got my thoughts on this animatic out of the way, I'm gonna say it. I think that keeping Mr. Wolf's old design and going with the original idea for the movie that they had revolving around that design is what they should have gone with. Alright, hear me out on this one. In the final movie, so many people cower in fear at the sight of the bad guys simply for them being born as predators. I'm gonna be honest, these designs are not threatening in the slightest, but they're not trying to be. This movie is trying to show a message about how harmful society's labels can be on people. The movie more portrays that people see these predators as prone to do crime more than they are just scary, because that's a plot point about them that was dropped in like the first 10 minutes. You can tell that was left over from this original concept, and you know what? I think that would have made for more interesting conflict. Think about it, in the final movie, it becomes when Mr. Wolf does a good thing, everyone loves him. He does a bad thing, everyone hates him because they believe that he was prone to doing it. Sure, they do explore the threatening aspect a bit when Mr. Wolf threatens Marmalade, but that's more just the icing on top of why society hates Mr. Wolf again, instead of the actual reason why. To see what this older version of the movie would have been like, let's go back to the deleted opening for a bit. Mr. Wolf's main skill here is using his threatening demeanor to get what he wants. Like this.
You've done enough. Much obliged. Now get lost!
In fact, the other characters have more crude and jagged designs, such as Mr. Piranha having a larger, spikier mouth, and Mr. Shark having a larger head that gives more emphasis to his fangs. I wouldn't say Mr. Snake is any more threatening, he just kinda looks like his final design but without clothes, and Mr. Tarantula isn't that different either. But regardless, seeing this and seeing how they play into the threatening aspects more paints a better picture on what this movie originally was going to be about. Yes, heists were still going to be a huge aspect, but really, this movie's plot was originally about how there is a heart behind these frightening exteriors. Which, now that I'm saying that out loud, it really doesn't sound too different from the final movie. Hear me out, there is a difference in there. In the final movie, as the plot goes on, the bad guys simply doing something good causes a shift in the public's perception of them. Suddenly, the way they look doesn't factor into it nearly as much anymore. Now imagine in this movie, the bad guys make the complete change to doing good, but even then, people still shun them out of fear. No matter how hard our main characters try to prove that they have changed, their threatening attributes still push people away. This could lead to an interesting arc about how the public's perception of you shouldn't matter to yourself as long as you are happy with yourself. What is winning others' approval going to get you in the end? You need to learn to love yourself. Mr. Wolf can realize that all of these threatening aspects to him were a blessing and not a curse. They are parts of him that aren't detriments, but it's exactly that. They simply are just a part of him. And by him embracing every aspect of himself, he could find ways to accept and love himself and use those aspects for good. The final movie hints at its message involving doing good for the sake of self-improvement, but it's kind of over-bombarded by other characters saying to do it for the sake of making everyone love you and stuff like that. I feel like the potential message that this draft was trying to tell had a lot of, well, potential. Falling into the trap of wanting everyone to like you can leave you open to self-hate and getting taken advantage of. We all have aspects about ourselves that we don't like and that we can't change, but choosing to only see them as a detriment isn't healthy. So what if there's some people out there who will never accept you for a certain aspect about yourself? Fuck them. You're better off without them. Even if at the current moment you don't feel that way. The more you learn to love and have respect for yourself, the more you begin to realize that how other people view you doesn't matter. You know, it's currently Pride Month, and I want to shed light on what that means in connection to this. Who you are is who you are, and no one can change that no matter how hard they try. Everyone around you cannot accept you, but as long as you still love yourself for who you are, why should any of their opinions on you matter? I've only ever mentioned this once on YouTube, but I'm gay, and I have been fortunate enough to be surrounded by loving and supportive people. There have been a few instances in my life where I've encountered some pretty rude people, but looking back at it, I just don't really care. I love myself for who I am. Now, what makes me upset is that I know so many people around me who aren't in as fortunate of circumstances as I am. I know a pretty good amount of closeted people who can't come out in fear of how their families will treat them. It's sad, but you can't lose hope. Even with all of this pressure against you, you can't forget to love yourself. When I first figured out I was gay, I wanted to do anything to change that fact. I really tried hard to be attracted to girls and push out any thoughts I had about guys. But I learned that in the end, I was born this way, and I can't change that aspect about me, no matter how hard I try. But honestly, why would I want to? My sexuality is simply an aspect of me that will forever be a part of me. And I want to love me, so why should I hate my own sexuality? Wait, we're talking about the bad guys, I forgot. I guess this is the reason why I resonate with his initial draft of the bad guys so much. The idea that not everyone is going to like Mr. Wolf because of how he looks, but he can rise above that and simply do good for the sake of wanting to love himself. I really like that message a lot. No, I'm not saying that this is a metaphor for being gay or trans. This message is very broad, and it can cover loads of different topics pertaining to self-identity. And it is just generally a good message that I feel people should hear. I only connected it to Pride Month to show just how much a person, that being me, could resonate with a message like this. So yeah, the inklings of what this initial draft shows and all aspects within it honestly make me prefer it. And we could never truly know what this draft could have turned out to be. I'm just guessing here. I just saw potential and really wanted to explore why exactly I did. Now, if you don't like this draft, that's completely fine. I liked it because of how much I personally jived with it. But the key word here is personal. Not everyone is gonna have the same preferences as you do, and as I said, people are actually pretty split on their opinions on this. In fact, I want to bring on my friend CookBoss88 to give an opposing view on this draft.
Alright, speaking as someone who loves movie references and high-speed instant car chase scenes and Quentin Tarantino and Sam Rockwell's smooth, buttery voice, I much prefer the beginning that we had in the final cut of the film. It had everything that I like when seeing the first few minutes of an action-filled movie. It has jokes, amazing banter between characters, and, unlike the draft, it gets to the goddamn point. Yes, there's some similarities in the two versions, like with Wolf and his Deadpool-like ability to speak and break the fourth wall, but the thing that bothered me about what the draft version did is have another character acknowledge that Wolf is breaking the fourth wall. That's a personal thing. I don't know why, but it just bothers me for some reason. And I also feel like the draft's pacing was too slow in my opinion. It didn't have that straight-to-the-point vibe that the final cut had. Mr. Wolf did not feel like Mr. Wolf. He didn't act like the same suave, smooth canine that we all fell in love with in the movie. If anything, he's more annoying here. I don't like it. Mr. Snake is okay, Mr. Shark is okay, Webbs is exactly the same, but Piranha? That I don't like. What made Mr. Piranha likable in the final cut of the movie was because he was crazy, but fun. What I saw from the draft was like night and day. I much prefer my Mr. Piranha to be cheerfully unhinged. Thank you very much. Bottom line is though, I don't think it's bad. It's just slow and different. From what I've seen in the comment section of this video, more than a handful of people like this draft, but personally I would just prefer the version that we saw in the movie. Also, before I leave this segment, I want to leave you guys with something. Diane Foxington and Mr. Wolf are the perfect power couple, and anyone who says otherwise, they suck their mom's toes. Fight me in the comments!
Okay, no, you're definitely wrong. Snake X Wolf forever. I'm only kidding. But Cook Boss, I really do appreciate you giving a counterpoint of view to the general aspects of this draft. But in the end, whether you guys believe that the final movie should have been this, or that the final movie's fine the way it is, well, that's entirely up to you. I'm actually curious. Let's start a discussion in the comments about this. I want to hear your guys' thoughts. What do you guys prefer? But regardless of the bad guys, in the end, I just want to tell you to love yourself. You are amazing, and never let anyone tell you otherwise. I just want to say thank you guys for checking out this video. It means a lot. Also, I wanted to say thank you to CookBoss88 for making an appearance in this video. It was fun working with you again, man. I just wanted to say thank you to all my patrons. Your support really means a lot. All right, plug time. Follow my Twitter. All right, what's next? Well, I've been really dealing with motivation issues, but I still do want to make the Juno video. So that's what's next. Hopefully it's coming in 2 weeks. Also, I want to make a video involving Pride Month. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys at the Juno video.